didn't really miss last week. We did it a bit early. This is going to be our regular spot for the coming future. Might be a few time changes here and there depending on availability. So let's go straight in and let's talk the lower points first. Where to start? Pixel Opus. Sony shut down that studio. Obviously, the maker of they only ever made 2 games in their 9 years. Entwined, which I know had a lot of fan, bit of a cult classic sort of thing, and Concrete Genie as well, which was a fantastic game. I believe it's on Game Pass at the moment. Not Game Pass, the PlayStation Plus.
It is, yeah.
So if you haven't played that, get across there and definitely give that a shot, because that is a fantastic game. And obviously there's other studios over the last couple of years that have been shutting down. And is it becoming a bit of a problem? Are we going to see more of this with Xbox and Microsoft buying up more studios?
Well, we've seen this kind of thing happen in the film industry over the last 20 or so years, in that, medium budget producers and films are getting pushed out of the market, so that you end up with a film industry that either makes the absolute biggest blockbuster films, or it makes very small indie films, and there's increasingly less stuff in between. And I think that's starting to happen with the game industry now. We're starting to see the same thing with all of these acquisitions and just the market going the way it is. That I think this is going to happen more and more. And it's a shame, because I think in history there have been heaps of great games made by, producers in that part of the market.
Yeah. You're right. There's been some really fantastic games. But I mean, obviously that on the flip side of that, hopefully that creates a bit of a gap in the market that maybe the indie developers can step into and start moving from that indie into.
Yeah, I guess the problem is that they can't get the budget to do it, because these the developers need to get the money from somewhere, and true. they can't get the money from publishers. So with the film industry, for example, they used to say, they say now that it used to be possible to go to a producer and get a movie made for, $5 million. But it was really hard to get a movie made for $50 million or a movie made for $50,000. But it was quite easy to get a movie made for, $1 million, $5 million, something like that. Yeah. Whereas nowadays, it's relatively easy to get a movie made for $500 million, or to get a movie made for, $1 million, but it's quite hard to get a movie made for $20 million. Yeah. It's really, really hard. And I think that same thing is going to happen in the games industry, or maybe already is happening, is that it's quite hard for developers, if they have an idea for a game that is going to need that kind of a budget. It's just quite hard to get publishers to say yes to that kind of thing, and to give them the money to make that kind of thing. Either they need to be a bigger studio, or they need to keep their sights set low and make smaller games.
Yeah. Well, that then takes me to the next point of, is there an issue with the current gen systems that are holding developers back?
Well, I'd be interested to get your opinion on this too. But my thought is that it's more of an optimization thing. So basically, for years, if you wanted to be, I don't know, playing in 4K or even playing in 1440p, higher frame rates, you'd be playing on PC. So you know, developers only really needed to optimize for Windows because you know they they weren't really releasing their games on Mac, or if they were, it was a very small market anyway. And they, you know, then for console, they were limited by the power that the console had at the time, and so it was either 1080p, pretty locked down frame rate, that kind of thing. Now that these new consoles, next gen consoles, are powerful enough to run in 4K, or albeit at lower frame rates. I think there's this problem now of when you release a big next gen game, can you optimize it for all of the different systems that it can run on? You could have someone with a high end PC, a mid tier PC, a very entry level PC. You've got a PlayStation and Xbox now that can both run in 4K. So
and multiple different generations as well, different systems.
yeah, and then you've also got, and we'll get onto this later, I'm sure, but you've also got systems like HDR, and then everyone's got different HDR TVs, all these kinds of things that can create optimization issues. And so I think that's what it is.
Yeah, you might be right. Obviously, we're seeing just in the last week two major games that have been pushed by companies that seem to be broken, massive performance issues, especially in the case of Jedi Survivor. Haven't played it personally myself. I held off because I was going away last weekend. I was going to get it this weekend. But listening to you and seeing what I've seen online, and there seems to be a bit of an agenda there, because everybody's talking about these optimization issues, but all the news companies, your IGNs, your GameSpots, don't really seem to be talking about it. They're just like, this game's amazing.
Yeah. Look, I think that's been a trend for several years, to be honest. Of and we always have to be careful of, okay, are these games being review bombed, or are these problems that people are having genuine? In the case of Jedi Survivor, I think most of them are genuine, based on the fact that I've had some issues myself, and also, EA have already apologized for some of the performance issues. Although, bizarrely, they tried to turn it back onto the players and say that it was people running, inefficient systems, basically.
Inefficient PlayStation 5.
Yeah, well, exactly. I had issues on the PS5, not good. Serious HDR issues. Basically, the game's unplayable in HDR, which is just inexplicable, really. It goes into this very kind of dark sepia tone. You can't see anything. It's awful. I haven't checked in the last day or two since the last update to see if that's fixed yet. But yeah, certainly. I didn't play it day one. I played it day 2 of its release. So it had already had one update, I believe, by that point, and it was still had that issue. And the frame rate was, even in performance mode, was dropping pretty low. And then to kind of try to keep the frame rate up, the resolution was dropping way down. And I had read an article that to keep the frame rate playable, the game will sometimes drop below 720p, which is actually dropping into standard definition territory, which does not look good on a 4K TV.
No, not at all. And obviously we've had our issues with Hogwarts since launch. A lot of reports coming out there that trophies were glitching and broken, yourself experienced it last week with one of the trophies just not popping for you. The reason I stopped at a certain point getting certain trophies because I knew they were broken. Always intend to go back and do them. But to hear what are we now? 4 or 5 months after release?
Yeah.
On current gen, PS5, Xbox Series X. Or at least PS5 to come out first on PS5, didn't it?
PS5 and PS5 and PC, I think.
Yeah. And to find that that's still broken, and they still haven't fixed that.
And look, I submitted a report to Warner Brothers Games a couple of days ago, and looking through the support pages there are a lot of reports, and there was a report that was similar but not quite the same to mine, and it had received nearly 5,000 upvotes, and a lot of people putting in their own videos to, back up this report. So yeah, it's not particularly great, and I can't help but think that this is caused by the fact that, hey, it just launched on PS4. They've probably been trying, like, the whole studio has probably been working on trying to get this PS4 version ready, because they've had to push the date back of that at least once, maybe twice. It was originally meant to come out only a month after the PS5 version. It got pushed back an additional 3 or 4 months. So I can't help but think that it's caused by the fact that, you know, they've had to try to optimize for a console that basically the game struggles to run on. And maybe they should have just gone, no, this is a next gen thing. Sorry. If you don't have a powerful enough PC, you can't play it. That's the case with so many games nowadays. If your PC doesn't meet the minimum requirements, you can't play it. So maybe they should take the same approach with consoles from now on and stop trying to release for PS4 and the previous generation of Xbox, because, you know, it's just so difficult to optimize for all these different systems.
That then comes back to the money thing. I mean, they're obviously trying to cash in on Harry Potter and Hogwarts and as much as they can.
I guess we know, though, that there are enough examples now. So take Cyberpunk, for example, where taking that approach doesn't work. It comes to bite them in the arse, so to speak, because they end up losing so many players because of the performance issues.
And unfortunately, from the higher up point, they're looking at that stock out the door. They're looking at those figures rolling in. The downturn, like so many other people. Like I didn't bother going and getting a refund or anything like that on Cyberpunk.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's got to be a huge percentage of people that just wouldn't bother.
Yeah,
they weren't having huge massive experiences of the game breaking. And probably just ran with it like I did. I mean, I was playing the PS4 version on the PS5 and I had a blue screen a couple of times and crashed. But outside of that, performance-wise, it wasn't bad. But again, much like what people are saying with Dead Island 2, games that are in development that long, you feel like you're playing a game from 2012.
Yeah.
Control-wise, and it shouldn't be that clunky.
No. And yeah, I guess that the tech is moving so fast now that if a game's been in development for several years, it's going to feel quite dated, But if it's only been in production for a year, maybe it's not really ready yet. But they've still got to be pushing out games. So, yeah, it's a difficult one.
That then leads me to Redfall. This is one that I was quite excited for. You know, a multiplayer game we can do as a team. We can do our team streams and stuff like that on it. I played it maybe for an hour the other night. It felt and looked quite cartoony. Got no issue with that.
Yeah, it's fine.
The default settings for sensitivity are way too high. Way too high. So as soon as you go in there, you got to change down those settings because,
I mean, most people change their sensitivity anyway.
A lot of the camera settings on most games when you jump in are usually too slow. I found.
Yeah, usually.
This is way too high.
Yeah,
way too fast. Like you'd move the controller like this, and it'd be. I ended up with motion sickness and had to stop playing the game.
Yeah.
I usually, when I first go into a game, I won't play with the settings too much. I'll go in because 9 times out of 10 I'll just get used to them. And realistically, I probably should just go play with the settings. So I ended up getting motion sickness from playing Minecraft.
Right.
Stuff like that. But that game, every report I've seen, every review I've seen, IGN gave it a 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that, and I guess, you know, with big releases these days, if they don't get good reviews from the, you know, IGN's, GameSpots, etc., it's probably pretty damning because they tend to give pretty glowing reviews about a lot of games.
And it really doesn't look good for Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know it's not straight out of Bethesda's main studio.
Yeah.
But it's under the Bethesda banner. And this is the first, I believe, I could be wrong, it's the first game that's their Xbox exclusive.
So it's a new studio under the Arcane banner. So Arcane have made stuff before, but it's Arcane Austin.
Yeah.
So this is their first game. But given that it is coming from a big publisher, and also Arcane Studios themselves as a brand are also pretty established. Yeah, you're right. It's not a good look. I'm just looking at the numbers on Steam here. So currently down 30%, 669 upvotes, 1,688 downvotes. It's day one, looking at 6,000 players over 24 hours. We're down to about 1,500 at the moment.
Yeah.
After only a few days.
I can see the potential in that game. Don't get me wrong. But from what I've been reading, like repetitive, boring storyline, and like just the whole thing just feels so outdated.
Mm-hmm.
Then that takes me to that. Another point with Back 4 Blood. A very similar style game. PvE, 1 to 4 players that you can do co-op. Prey was the same. They had all this publicity around them going in. And then all of a sudden they release, boom. They have an okay release, and within a month, they're just gone. Nobody's playing them.
Yeah.
Is that style of game dying out?
I think it potentially is, yeah.
Back for Blood. You know, we've got these now. I mean, people still go back and play Prey, but that was probably the first of the big ones in this area. Oh, no, I'd take that back. Left 4 Dead was way before that, wasn't
Do
it?
you think that co-op based PvE generally is dying out a bit? Is that the thinking?
I want to say no because I'm such a fan of it.
Yeah,
I love being able to jump on with you boys and going into a story mode.
Yeah.
You know, there's no pressure. Like you and I, we're not the best PvP players. Depending on the game. Like if we're jumping into Warzone or something like that, we're fucking shocking. But you drop us into Warzone where there's actual objectives, and the main thing isn't to go hunting and killing each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the added bit to that style of game.
Yeah.
We're a lot better at it.
Yeah.
You know, and that probably goes all the way back to Resistance too.
Yeah.
With the online co-op. Like, we spent years playing that. Years. And I think at one point we were ranked 1 and 2 in the world.
Something like that.
We were definitely top 5.
Yeah.
We were definitely top 5. So like that's pretty crazy in itself. But I don't want to say it's dying, but it seems everything's pointing that way. I don't know if it's the player base is dying off for it. I don't think that's the case because there's obviously still calls for it. Look at Overwatch, for instance. You know, people have been screaming for more PvE stuff on Overwatch. So I think the player base is still there for it. I think the developers are seeing things like Fortnite, PUBG, and Warzone, and going, oh, people are loving this PvP. Let's make as much money out of that as we can. Let's release a free game to just fill it with microtransactions.
Yeah, I was going to mention those kinds of games.
I mean, even on sports games. I mean, we play FIFA every week. We very rarely have trouble finding games on pro clubs. People want to play together. I know that's half PvP, half PvE. Because you know there's a lot of computer element in it as well.
But you mean co-op?
Yeah, co-op side. But then you look at like Ultimate Team. That's where they're making their money.
Yeah.
And they're making their money off the weekend tournaments and. You know,
I mean, it's a bit of an indictment too on the player base that there are these free options out there where you don't have to spend any money and you just team up with your mates and you have fun. But that's not where the majority of people are spending their time. They're spending their time in game modes where they can spend a lot of their hard-earned cash.
Or parents' hard-earned cash.
Yeah.
And it does.
Which, if you want to do that, absolutely, that's your choice.
Unless it's your parents' hard-earned cash.
Yeah.
I don't know that you.
Yeah.
that you're spending it, then there's a bit of an issue there.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that it's dying, but it seems to be that way, and it's really, really unfortunate because we could be seeing, some really, really good stuff, and it all seems to be single player or PvP. There doesn't seem to be any in between, and then that then leaves guys like us, or people like us, I should say. Down the rabbit hole of playing MMOs. Because those games have everything. PvP, PvE, PvE versus P. Like they just offer so much. I mean, in the last couple of weeks, I've started getting back into World of Warcraft, and my God, I should not have. I'm running ICC every Monday now on stream.
Yeah.
Still trying to get that Invincible man after fucking 12, 13 years.
It's always a never-ending pit, MMOs. As soon as you step out for a week or a month, you are so far behind, and then even if you're playing every day, there's still someone who's there are still people who are playing more than you, and you always feel like you're playing catch up. It's a never-ending game of catch up.
Yeah. And the thing with World of Warcraft is that doesn't worry me.
Yeah,
because there's always something to do. Like, the game's just that big now.
Mm-hmm.
Like the maps are far cry from what it was back in the classic days in vanilla, where it was just Eastern Kingdom and Kalimdor. Now you've got this in the middle, island here, island here. Like the whole place is filling up. How did we never see these islands when we're like flying back and forth between the two? Like,
right. Yeah,
fucking tons of them. That's a little bit off subject. So Destiny 2 raising its prices. Are we going to see more of this style of stuff? Obviously, most games are now putting their prices up and have been since the current gen came into effect. Are we going to see more of these free to play / season pass type games start raising their prices? Warzone, even things like Fall Guys and Rocket League, are they going to start?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think so, because it does make financial sense for the publishers when, a game might be free, but if you can make the advantage of having a season pass over not having one that wide, that a player thinks that they almost have to have a season pass,
then Destiny. That's the problem.
Then you're going to get people to pay whatever the season pass is, $40, $50, even more sometimes, to buy the season pass every single new season. And that's going to make you way more money over time. In the past, where you might pay $100 for a new game and that's it, you've got the game, maybe you'll pay $20 for a season pass if you want some extra content. Now, you're paying, they might run 6, 7, 8 seasons, and you might be paying $30, $40, $50 every single time.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not too bad. But if you're releasing a season pass every I don't know what, 2-3 months, like that can build up over the lifetime of the game. Especially something like Destiny that's what 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it? No, it's 6 years old. It was 2017. Destiny 2.
I mean, we're still not approaching the kind of numbers that some people spend on microtransactions, like on Ultimate Team and mobile games, where some people spend $10,000 a year. But for the average gamer, definitely the prices are becoming more steep, and I guess the problem is that they're becoming more steep in a way that's a bit more hidden, because you don't know upfront how much it's going to cost you over the lifetime of playing that game when you get into it.
Yeah. And I might go spend a little bit here and there. Like if I get into Ultimate Team for a week, I'll go spend $20-30. But I mean, it's 20, 30 bucks over, once over a year.
Right.
NBA 2K, I might go buy some VC to upgrade my player. Just so that I'm, in and around what everyone else is at if I'm going to play Rec Centre or something like that. Rather than going in there with like a 72 rated centre up against,
Yeah.
80, 90 power forwards and not being able to block the wazoo. So the big story from the last week. And this is probably going to have a few thoughts on from both of us. Activision Blizzard being blocked in the UK from being bought out by Microsoft. Not for the reasons we thought either. Like Sony seemed to be trying to block them wherever they could. Worried about a few things that have been said. Apparently, everyone sort of said, it'd be stupid for them to take Call of Duty away and make it exclusive. Sony were worried they would still do that because of some shareholders call.
Yeah,
apparently
that's right.
Said something along the lines of that they were going to look at making it exclusive, which had gone against everything that Microsoft and Xbox were saying. Maybe excuse me. I'm assuming that it was Xbox saying no, we're going to leave it as a multi-console thing. And Microsoft are going, money. No, exclusive.
I think it's been their public stance for a long time, whenever they've acquired publishers, that they don't, that's been their public stance that they won't make things exclusive. But that doesn't mean that they don't have plans to change that in the future privately.
That seems to change very quickly.
Yeah.
They said with Bethesda that they weren't going to, they were very coy on the subject with Bethesda. They sort of said, we're not really in a position to say whether we will or not. Obviously, Bethesda's got some deals with Sony. We're going to uphold those deals, which they did, admittedly. But then as soon as all those deals ran out, it was like, Redfall. Yeah, that's going to be exclusive. The next Fallout game, that's going to be exclusive. The next Elder Scrolls game, that's going to be exclusive. But it's okay because we're going to leave the MMOs on PlayStation.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I mean, the Elder Scrolls Online is still very, very popular. I think it's the number one ranked MMO, isn't it? Still for about 5 years running.
I don't understand quite what their strategy is. They've obviously, punched in the numbers and figured it out, but it doesn't quite make sense to me because there'll be a number of people that will do what I do, and like PlayStation players who they also have a PC. If they're going to get Game Pass, they're just going to get it on PC. So that's not really going to sell more Xbox consoles. Yes, you're still getting them on Game Pass, I suppose. Maybe that's their thinking, but they don't need to.
But it's still making money from Microsoft, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. But you don't have to get them onto Game Pass to make money on those games if you're selling them on PlayStation. Like, you're only getting whatever the cut might be. Let's just say, for argument's sake, 50% of whatever a sale might be on the PlayStation Store, let's say. But surely you're getting more people buying the game if you've got it on more platforms than just selling, getting more people into Game Pass.
I could be wrong. I think that's Phil Spencer's stance. From what I've heard him say, and what I've heard people say about him. He's always been that. We don't care where you play. We just want you having fun doing it. And
unfortunately,
his stance for gaming and where Xbox is at doesn't seem to be everybody over at Microsoft and Xbox's stance.
Mm-hmm.
And that there seems to be at least with Sony, and this isn't just being a Sony fanboy. You know where Sony stand on it. Sony are like, we want you playing our console. We want you playing our games. We make the best story-driven games. And we're making those purely because we know you're going to buy those games and you're going to buy our consoles to play them. And they're unapologetic about it.
Mm-hmm.
Even to the point where people hate Sony and their business practice, but they still go and buy the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I just Microsoft and Xbox buying out Activision really worried me. Really worried me. And that's coming from a Blizzard fan. The Activision Blizzard deal went through during a period when I didn't really have a lot to do with gaming. And didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes. And had I known, I probably would have been just as worried then. And being a World of Warcraft fan and watching those early releases of expansions to what expansions are now, the quality drop is massive. Even from the last one of Blizzard and the first one of Activision Blizzard. Like massive drop.
Yeah. It's unfortunately it's the way that the industry's going, as we talked about before. With acquisitions generally, it's not like Sony aren't making acquisitions, and they have condemned Microsoft for the acquisitions that they're making, but Sony are making their own. They might be smaller studios, but it's not like Sony aren't doing the same thing.
And again, like this, Sony's business practice isn't always the best.
Yeah, and they are a bit hypocritical, but maybe you're right. They're honest about it, I guess.
They're very unapologetic about it. I suppose it must be a Japanese way of doing things, business-wise, because Nintendo have their business model.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very unapologetic about it, and they go hell for leather.
Yeah, and the plan is just that
every time they release a new console, they release all the old stuff and make you pay for it again because it doesn't work on the new stuff.
Yeah, and the plan is just like, look here, we've got a great product. You're going to have fun on it. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I think.
And look, it's worked. I mean, Sony this week hit 500 million console sales since the start of the PS1. Being the first company to do so. Which is crazy when you think how long Nintendo's been around.
Yeah.
Like I actually shot Tan last night. I'm having tea. I was like, you realise like Nintendo's been around since like the 1890s? It's just what? How? Well, they used to make playing cards.
Yeah, right.
They used to make playing cards and stuff, and then obviously it evolved over the years, and eventually got into the electronics, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's amazing how some businesses kind of change over time. Like Amazon has had a similar story, and Netflix, of course, started out as a DVD hiring kind of service.
Yeah, it's about finding something that's working at the time and being able to evolve ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And become a leader in that space. Unfortunately, Blizzard were a company like that. Making some stuff that worked. Warcraft, Starcraft, and then evolving a little bit with Diablo, and how that evolved, and then obviously they went into World of Warcraft. That was that moment where they hit the head of the curve, and then it plateaued for so long.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing from EA as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, they brought sports games into the future through the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. And with each new console generation, up until this one, basically, I think they've been right at the front of releasing something that is going to be able to, make the most of the new hardware. And
apart from the NBA games, they were horrendous.
Yeah.
NBA Live games were terrible.
But even like back in the day, it didn't matter whether you were buying one of their biggest games like FIFA, or whether you were buying one of their more niche games, and they had lots of them. They had like a rugby game, a cricket game. They had one for like NHL. They had one for every sport. They were all really polished.
Yeah. And now they're focusing too much on the little things. Little to us because we don't play them. But they're obviously making them a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's where they're focusing. And a little bit off topic, but let's bring back into the Xbox thing. Would you have rather seen Microsoft and Xbox acquire Activision Blizzard? Or would you rather what's happened had been blocked and we leave that publisher out there doing its own thing, even with the bad press. I mean that bad press has almost been swept under the rug just by this deal in itself.
It's a difficult one. I don't think there's enough evidence out there yet for a long enough period of time to see whether or not these big acquisitions are good, like net good for the developers primarily. It looks like in the case of smaller to medium-sized developers, like maybe the acquisitions do help. But then maybe with the larger publishers being acquired, that maybe it's a bit up in the air still about whether or not it's net good for the developers under those publishing houses and the games.
I think for Bethesda, it was probably the right thing for ZeniMax to go across.
Mm-hmm.
They'd had some terrible releases in the build up to that.
Yeah. Maybe it depends on where they are. If they're doing really well independently, then what benefit is a takeover going to be for them? That's just added bureaucracy, I guess. But if they're not doing so well, a takeover can be that cash injection and I suppose workflow optimization in terms of being able to talk to other developers under the same banner, and work with the same game engines and all that kind of stuff that can actually help them to produce better games if they're struggling. So yeah, maybe it depends where they are at that moment in time.
What was the last? I can't even remember the last time Bethesda actually released.
It is quite odd though, because in the business world, usually takeovers happen at a point where a business is starting to peak, and to grow, it needs to be, taken over. Usually, you get a startup that kind of blows up, that does really well. That person or that group of people running that business take it as far as they can, and then someone much bigger buys it, and either it can get bigger or it doesn't. But it doesn't seem to be how acquisitions work in the game industry.
Yeah.
I don't see these most of these producers getting significantly bigger under a Microsoft or a Sony banner.
No, definitely not. So I'm just having a look to see when the last big release was for Bethesda. Because Redfall, I mean, that's a complete miss. Hi-Fi Rush. It came out Tango Gameworks. The same studio that did Ghostwire Tokyo. That was released last year. Jeez. I mean, Deathloop that came out. That got some good reviews, but it wasn't as big as I expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that and Ghostwire Tokyo, maybe that's because of the PlayStation deal that stopped it going on Xbox until recently.
Yeah. Maybe.
Doom Eternal was 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Wolfenstein, Cyberpilot, and Youngblood, they were almost standalone DLCs, weren't they?
Yeah.
I know you don't like that term, but that's they were smaller standalone versions. Rage 2 was a massive failure. A lot of marketing went into that. Let's go back to 2019. Fallout 76, another massive failure. That was 2018. Even the Evil Within 2 didn't hit the mark, did it?
No, I don't think so.
Not as much as the first one did.
Mm-hmm.
Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. That's probably the last time they really had something that hit.
Yeah.
From my point of view, anyway. And that was 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
And then you know, other things you're back at Dishonored, Prey, Quake Champions. That were all 2017. And then you go into 2016 with Doom, 2015 with Fallout 4. Like, it's been a long time since they've really hit home with a decent game for Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
For such an acclaimed studio.
Yeah, they're kind of riding on the coattails of their past success, I think.
Yeah, and it really was that sort of 20... What are we looking at? Maybe 2010 to about 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Where they were releasing Doom 2, Quake Live, Fallout New Vegas, Quake 3 Arena, the original Rage, Elder Scrolls Skyrim, Dishonored, Doom 3, Doom re-release, the Elder Scrolls Online, Wolfenstein The New Order, The Evil Within, Fallout 4, the Elder... Did I say the Elder Scrolls Online? Yeah, I did. That was their period, right there.
Yes, yeah.
And they just haven't hit home since. it's a shame. And I've
heard
some stuff online that Microsoft are stepping in with Starfield to make sure that it doesn't go down the same path as Redfall and their last feud. Like this needs to be a hit. If
the amount of money that they spent on buying Bethesda, it really does.
That's what shocked me. Because I couldn't believe they spent $7 billion on ZeniMax.
Yeah.
And even with all the bad press, with the bad press, I should say, you would have thought Activision Blizzard would have come at a discounted price.
Mm.
And yet they were willing to spend $67 billion on Activision Blizzard. I mean, obviously there's a lot of money that comes their way with Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Like you've got the Call of Duty money, you've got the Need for Speed money, you've got all the Blizzard stuff. You know, Overwatch. You've got World of Warcraft. StarCraft is still going around. Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone. Like there's some big things under that Blizzard banner that make money.
Yes.
And you know then the tournaments that go with it and the streaming value that goes with Activision Blizzard. And that's why it's such a shame that, for lack of a better term, they're such a shitty company. because they make some really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that did worry me with the Xbox acquisition.
I think even if you're not a COD player, right, all of us have played a COD game that we enjoyed. I don't play the current ones, but there are at least like 2 or 3 COD games in the past that I absolutely love.
You're massive on the original Modern Warfares.
And World at War was great as well.
If I was you, I would go and have a play of the new story modes. I think I have them both.
I've watched plenty of videos of people playing them, and they do look pretty good.
I think it's a really good. A lot of people disagree with me, but I actually think it's a really good take on modernising the story mode.
Mm-hmm.
Or modernising that story. Even with no Russian. Or without no Russian.
Yeah.
But so in some ways, even though I was worried, I had a little bit of excitement because I thought maybe we might start to see Hearthstone come to console.
Right.
We might see probably not StarCraft, but maybe be a bit more serious about looking at a World of Warcraft port under console.
It's just so difficult to get MMOs on console. And I know because I play one. I play Star Trek Online on console. Used to play it on PC, and it's a lot better optimized for PC. It's just so difficult to get.
It's
so difficult to get, like an MMO that has heaps of different commands that are easy to kind of navigate with a keyboard and mouse onto a console with a controller that has a pretty limited number of inputs.
Yeah, no,
I think that's the key thing. It's nothing performance wise. I think it's purely an input device problem that holds MMOs back from more of them being on console.
Yeah, and I think that would especially with World of Warcraft, because like just thinking about it now, like I've got 5 action bars, and each one of them has like 12 commands on it, and I've got like 3 or 4 at the bottom of the screen, plus my pet one, and then like 2 down the side as well.
Yeah, and with keyboard and mouse, you can easily use a mouse to navigate that, and you can have with a keyboard you can have hotkeys for like anything you want. with a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller, it's much more limited.
Does that then not open up the possibility of peripherals for Sony and Microsoft? For Sony to go, alright, well, let's release a mini keyboard for the PS5.
Yeah.
It's not the first time they've done it.
Yeah.
I mean, the original PlayStation 1 had a mouse that you could buy. I think it was only released in Japan, but it might have been other places. But obviously, when Sony first released the PlayStation, there was a lot of point-and-click games.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they released a mouse. For the
Even
PlayStation
the PS3 had a controller keyboard. Mini keyboard that you can plug into the controller, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pain in the ass to use. Those buttons were so small.
Yeah. It's like using an old BlackBerry keyboard.
I thought I might have had it up here with where my consoles were,
but maybe it's just something about console gamers generally, and certainly not everyone, because there is some crossover, but maybe console gamers generally don't want to be that serious, or the idea is that I just want to kick back on the couch with my controller and have some fun playing some games. I don't want to have to work too hard at it. And even people who do both, maybe for some of those people, it's like, okay, if I want to game seriously, I'm going to go and play my PC. And if I just want to kick back and relax, I'm going to grab my controller and play my Xbox or my PlayStation.
But if you release something like this for the PlayStation,
yeah,
the Razer Orb Weaver.
Yeah.
Like, I think you make a killing.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, but
I think if they had something small like that,
if it was affordable,
yeah,
if
they released something like that was, what, 80, 90, $100, same price as a controller.
I suppose there is still a pretty big market for stuff, for peripherals like steering wheels for racing games, and they're pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And joysticks for Sims and
fighting games
yeah.
So there's always going to be a market, and I can't see Activision Blizzard doing it on their own, because I just don't think they'd have the worth in it, or see the worth in it. But if Sony or Microsoft bought out Activision Blizzard, I could see them going, right, that there's something there. Let's also capitalise and make... Like, if you were making these things, these all weavers, for, Activision Blizzard were making them, and branding them with, Horde and Alliance, or, Tauren, Undead, Human. Like, I mean, you've got all these different things that you can brand them with.
Yeah, I guess so. I suppose the average gamer would want something that they can use for all of their games.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But if you were marketing, like you could sell plain ones, but then you could also make multiple different...
Yeah.
And, someone like me, I'm going to go straight out, and I'm going to be like, right, well, fuck, now I'm going to need two, because I want the Death Knight one, and I want the Tauren one. And if I'm playing World of Warcraft on my PS5, with something like that, it's hard enough getting me out of the study office as it is. But you just wouldn't see me. I would not see the light of day. It'd be an absolute disgrace.
I just think about how difficult it might be to get a keyboard onto something like this that is then easy to use while you're playing, because you've kind of got both hands on the controller anyway. How do you make a keyboard for the top of the controller, or even for the bottom of the controller? Because I suppose you can do it. You could do it both ways. That then types of commands. It would be very difficult. It's a lot more difficult than a keyboard and mouse, I think.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, making something like this, whether it be wired, Bluetooth, whatever, for console. I mean, this has got a little joypad.
Yeah.
So movement wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, that's right. Because I suppose what you can do is you can have, say, one hand on your controller. Let's say your left hand that does your movement.
Yeah.
That joystick that's doing your movement, and then your right hand can be on a kind of mini keyboard here, where you've got your right joystick and then a bunch of command buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Or even putting a mouse with it. A mouse and or weave a combo.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the worst option in the world.
I mean, I know that the PS5 does accept like a keyboard and mouse, but most games on PlayStation,
Xbox do as well. But
yeah, I don't think you can really use them to play anything.
The games on there aren't really. I mean, you can use it for. Call of Duty does accept them.
Mm-hmm.
On both consoles. The option is there. I know on the original Warzone, the option was there to select controller or mouse and keyboard on PS5 and PS4. So, I mean, Activision Blizzard have got the technology there. Like, they've got no issue integrating that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just getting the peripherals to work alongside it.
Yeah.
So I reckon we went off topic about 12 times. Just on Activision Blizzard, which is always such a touchy subject. That's without even talking about all their issues that have been swept under the rug and disappeared. Thanks to Microsoft. I mean, was it just a publicity stunt? Did they know they were never going to do it? Was there some kind of deal? There's a conspiracy theories 101 there. Going down rabbit holes.
I mean, it's been blocked by a legal, well, not even a legal technicality, just a very, very small non-issue.
Do they monopolise the cloud gaming space with Activision Blizzard? They probably would.
That's not really the issue, though. From my understanding,
that's what it's been blocked for.
Yeah. But the legal case, it's not really on cloud gaming as a whole. It's a very specific thing to do with cloud gaming, in my understanding. It's worth more research, I think.
Yeah. I mean, yes. It is what it is. There's not much we can.
No, we're not lawyers. We don't know everything that's going on there. But yeah.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. I'll go make some clips and stuff like that and get them put out on the socials. And now, next week, what's your next Saturday like?
Yeah, it should be fine.
All right. Well, we'll be back at the same time next week then. And gaming in between. All right. It's been a pleasure as normal, Sue. And we will see you